we are going to go ahead and try this again. Give me just a minute to go ahead and share this out and whatnot. I don't really know what went wrong there. Something went wrong there though, but it's my first time doing the multi-platform using this stuff, so unfortunately problems are going to happen. So let me just get this cleaned up, which it's okay. This gives people a minute to join in. And while that happens, okay. The YouTube channel name is just Discuss, I believe. Let me see, you know, I can even put the link in the comment. The chat appears to be working. I'm seeing your guys' comments, so that's good. I still don't know what exactly went wrong with that last one where I got kicked off. So I'll have to go back in and check that out. Let's see here. All right, so we are going to get right into this here in just a minute. Like I said, we're just going to share this out real quick. Things do look different. What is this about tonight? This is about our lovely group of sovereign scammers. Recently, there's been a little bit of a development. It's definitely not looking too great for all of them at the moment. But it's about our sovereigns, a group of sovereign scam artists that have basically been taking advantage of desperate families that are involved in child protective services cases. It's been going on for a pretty long while now, but just recently it's there's definitely been some developments, and that really stems off from like the arrest of Cynthia Abzug, a sovereign. Oh, what is a sovereign? Well, sovereigns are... So a sovereign citizen, they basically believe that they exist outside of the law or just believe in completely nonsensical or outdated laws. They use, and you know what, actually why not? We can kind of go through a history of the sovereigns. The sovereigns, they started up, I believe it was in the 80s. And they were actually, there's a lot of racism involved in the group. It was kind of a white supremacy thing. Blacks, Mexican, minorities of all sorts, they really weren't allowed to take part in the sovereign movement. And then it kind of started to shift as technology and society basically evolved, so did the sovereign movement. And over the years, like by the early 2000s, it really became legal. It's always about legal problems, and then there's always a resolution that will fix all of your legal problems, all of them. And this goes from bankruptcy to CPS cases to jail to, I mean, you just name it, criminal, civil. They claim that they have an answer for every single thing. So a lot of the times, which is interesting with the entire sovereign movement, if you really look into the people that are super into the sovereigns and into these different beliefs, these nonsensical practices, you'll see that there's normally something bad right there that led up to it. Like they they were losing their house and they just lost their shit. They went through a divorce. They got fired from their job. They just had a run of bad luck. They went through bankruptcy. And as all that happened, they basically got desperate and most likely stumbled upon one of these smaller online groups. Because another problem with the sovereign movement is that it's not like normal gangs or like biker clubs or anything like that. It's not like the Crips or the Bloods or like you put one entity over it. With the sovereigns, it's just hundreds, if not thousands, of little groups of sovereigns that all practice very similar beliefs, but they all have their slight little tweaks and differences to it. For example, if they're mainly focused on CPS cases, then their sovereign beliefs are going to be a little bit different than the guys that are telling you that bankruptcy. And then they also believe the country is a company and that your birth name is a straw man name, and that the U.S. Treasury owes you money and you can break out of this contract and get millions and millions of dollars, all the money you could ever want, if you just figure out this right combination of words, which nobody has been able to figure out. It's interesting, but it's dangerous. Yeah, they're nuts. That's definitely a pretty good summary of what they are. CPS News Network. That's actually one of the channels that pushes a lot of twisted narratives. I see them in the comments there. CPS News Network is one of the ones I don't know. I haven't looked into them quite enough to say that they're full-blown sovereign, but they definitely twist this narrative and put out half-truths over any sort of actual facts and kind of skip over court documents and whatnot, but, it's whatever. I'm actually blocked from your guys' page, CPS News Network, so I appreciate you being able to comment on my platforms when you won't let me comment on yours. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so anyways, sorry. I some of these people. But you know what? I'm just going to share this out. I was tagging some people, but it looks like people have come on, so whatever. Sovereigns. Okay. So, early 2000s, the sovereign movement became a lot more dangerous in the eyes of the federal government, at least. There was a father and son that were going around the country, and they were doing kind of like what David Straight does, where they would go to these different towns around the country, and they would speak at them and tell people all of their bullshit, and just push these sovereign notions. They could save anything. They could help anything. They can help your bankruptcy. And the thing was the father was actually going through bankruptcy. He had lost his house, lost his job. Same sort of story like that. So they were going downhill, and him and his teenage son were traveling the country doing these different seminars and whatnot. And then they actually got pulled over, I believe it was in 2003, and they killed 2 cops. State troopers, if I remember correct. So they shot and killed him. And I believe the teenage son actually got out of the vehicle and shot the 2 state troopers. And then they ran, and they ended up getting shot and killed in a Walmart not far from the initial shooting. So basically at that point, that's when the sovereigns and how the federal government viewed them definitely changed. It took a very more serious and drastic approach towards them, and that's when sovereigns started being labeled as potential domestic terrorists. So being wrapped up to them with the sovereign movement comes with a lot of negative stipulations. It's not just something that's funny, and I mean we laugh at them a lot. Anybody that's new to this channel, my page, these lives in general, we've been following these sovereigns for a minute now, just because they take advantage of so many people, which Arlena Willis and her current court situation is a perfect example of how wrong these sort of ridiculous beliefs can go. But as much as we joke about them and everything, it's really not funny. It's serious. They do take advantage of desperate people, and that's the main thing with the sovereigns. It's kind of like the whack jobs and the lunatics that take advantage of people with cancer and tell them black salve will kill your cancer. It only destroys cancer cells. It'll leave normal skin alone, which is not true at all. But I compare these different groups a lot, like the different medical wackos and shit like that, just because they are very similar in how they pick their victims. They look for desperation. They promise a cure based on nothing, and then they also use themselves as verification that it's working. So like a lot of the black salve groups that you go online and find, they'll talk about how they cured their cancer, and they'll upload pictures showing what they claim to be cancer, and they'll show the treatment, and then they'll say, oh my God, I'm clear of cancer now. And the part that they're not telling you is that a lot of the times they don't even go and get diagnosed by anybody. So they're literally just saying, I have cancer and now it's gone. And in reality, the chances are they didn't have cancer to even begin with. And that's kind of the same thing that you're seeing with the sovereigns and these affidavits that have been pushed by Francesca Amato and David Jose. And then you got like Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallet and E-Clause. Talking about all their ridiculous remonstrance and Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, and then Timothy Holmseth and David Straight and Field McConnell, all claiming that they speak directly to the president. I mean, and that they're part of these task force. And if you look into these different task force and these different claims and these different affidavits, it is all them backing what each other is saying. Like the origins of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, which the name kind of changes depending on which one of them is trying to push the bullshit at the time. But as far as an origin or any sort of online stuff goes about the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, it goes back to Timothy Charles Holmseth. And if you don't know who Timothy Charles Holmseth is, he right now is a wanted felon. Or is he a wanted felon? I don't know if he's a felon yet, but he's a fugitive at the moment. I don't remember his past charges at the moment. He is wanted, though, and he's wanted because he has harassed this Florida attorney, Kim Picasio, for years. I mean, just years upon years upon years, and accused her of this kidnapping that it didn't happen. She didn't do it, but he has just targeted her. He's wrote a book. He's targeted her online through multiple outlets, and then Field McConnell started to do the same thing, and Field McConnell is actually in jail at the moment for making threats against Kim Picasio. So that's kind of almost to where we are now. There was two things that happened and actually there's one thing that happened that can really trace back to a lot of the problems for this whole little, honestly, in these court documents that we're going to look at, they call it a criminal enterprise. And honestly, they're right. It's such a spread out group, and it's so connected, and they're hitting so many different areas and taking money from so many different people that this is a criminal enterprise. And they are all intermingling with each other, and they all are using the same different strategies coming from a sovereign backing. So I mean, yeah, those words aren't right. It's not just a funny little scam thing. This is pretty serious stuff. And so where things really started to go south for everybody is the arrest of Cynthia Abzug, which Cynthia Abzug, her arrest, Cynthia was arrested, and this gets interesting too. I actually feel like I'm somewhat summarizing this okay for nobody that's even heard this before, which is surprising. This is just such a cluster. It's a clusterfuck of craziness. So Cynthia Abzug, right now, she is charged with conspiracy to kidnap. The allegation is that she was planning with members of QAnon, the online conspiracy group. If you're not aware of who QAnon is, they same sort of thing as the Sovereigns. Some QAnon people really aren't that bad, but then if you get into like the extremist QAnon groups, shit gets pretty weird, and it gets pretty weird quick. And there's a lot of bad information and misinformation being spread around, but for the most part, it's not much of a gimmick or anything, and they're somewhat harmless. But so Cynthia Abzug is accused of plotting on kidnapping her child, who was in a foster family with members of QAnon. Now, there's supporters of Cynthia that say that's not true. She didn't even know who QAnon was, blah, 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 which is a completely ridiculous claim, especially if you're talking like, James White and Northwest Liberty News and people like them who say that she had no clue who they were. It's bullshit. Cynthia went on the run with all of these people. She was going state to state with these people. She called into Field McConnell's show and was talking about the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. She was deep with these more extremist conspiracy guys. Yes, Pedophile Task Force. We'll get to it because that's actually something that's going to come up. But yes, it is a real thing. These guys actually claim that they're in direct communication with the president. The person on the run right now for harassing an attorney, and the guy that's sitting in jail right now in, I believe, Wisconsin, waiting to be extradited out to Broward County, Florida, claim they are in direct contact with the president. Again, they're in jail. He's in jail, one's on the run, and they claim that they have the president's blessing. So, I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It would seem like the president could pull a string or two and keep you from going to jail. So, right off the bat, it's a little confusing. But Cynthia Abzug, sorry, I saw that comment and got a little distracted there. Yeah, Cynthia. So Cynthia is running all around with these guys. She's running from a warrant. She's staying with different ones. I believe she stayed with Kirk Pendergrass. Field McConnell sent out someone to help her. They were doing crowdfunding and all this stuff. And that basically leads up to where we are now with Sarah Dunklin. So Sarah Dunklin is she appears to be a very big missing piece of this. Very, very big missing connecting piece. Sarah Dunklin, if you Google her name, and please do, it's actually kind of interesting. It's like she lived this double life where she was involved with politics. Her father, Bill Dunklin, he's running for senator right now. She was involved with the GOP party. She gave she looked like a normal person, like a normal Republican handling business. Then there's this dark side of Sarah Dunklin where she was teaming up with Field McConnell and these different people in these sovereign scams and basically harvesting CPS victims for them. I'd heard things like this before, but this custody order this custody order was nice to see. It was definitely expected, but it brought a few things to the table that I don't think a lot of people were fully aware of. Hey, and Glow Channel, yeah, we like the Glow Channel too, by the way. It's nice to see you on a live. This is actually our first live on YouTube, Glow, so I'm glad that you could be here for that first one. Let's see here. What are we going to pull up? Let's pull this up. All right. This is the emergency ex parte motion that was put in by the father of Sarah Dunklin's child. So we can kind of skim through this and see what this has to say. Parties to the action were divorced by decree on about the 28th day of June 2016, wherein the parties entered into a marital settlement agreement stating or sharing joint legal custody of the minor child. Dunklin having primary physical custody of the minor child. The emergency now exists that affects the safety and well-being of the party's minor child and requires the court to enter an ex parte granting the defendant, Robert Glenn Chatham, I don't know if I'm saying Chatham correct. If I'm not, sorry, Robert, if you somehow end up seeing this. Emergency custody of the minor child involved herein. The emergency that exists is as follows. On or about February 1st, 2020, the defendant's now wife was scrolling through social media and noticed plaintiff's name appeared in a comment about human trafficking. After further investigation, defendant learned that plaintiff is actively being investigated for phishing individuals on Facebook and social media sites for money, and plaintiff is involved in a human trafficking organization. And now, this human trafficking, some people might get thrown off by that word, but a lot of people also, when they hear human trafficking, they automatically assume that it's prostitution and it's sex and all of that. That's not, human trafficking does not have that one definition. It also goes as far as workers, like cheap labor, taking people across the border, smuggling people without sex whatsoever. So here with some of the stuff, and unfortunately in Northwest Liberty News is extreme, like just, I don't know, that guy wants these people to be innocent so bad that it really fucks up the information that he puts out. But in his just attempts to make her innocent and that she has no clue what QAnon is, James has accidentally spilled out a lot of different information that actually shows how tied and connected with these people they really were. But even there, where they were passing Cynthia state to state and helping her crowdfunding, that would be a human trafficking case. They were trafficking her around the country while she was on the run from authorities. That could also go a different way. I mean, I don't know, because these guys were also pretty nuts. If you've ever watched any of Field McConnell's live, if you watch any of Timothy Holmseth, any of them, these guys got really, really dark sides to them. They do some pretty crazy shit. And it was also, Field McConnell said that Ryan Wilson, Sarah Dunklin's ex-boyfriend, was actually sent to Cynthia Abzug with one of Field McConnell's guns and one of his cars. So, I'm not going to close anything out, and I'm sure at this point, because another thing a lot of people have asked is why there hasn't been any other arrests with the Cynthia Abzug case, why Ryan Wilson hasn't been arrested, why this person hadn't been arrested, where are all the arrests? My guess would be is that now that they're starting to look into this stuff, they're probably like, holy shit, what the hell is this? What the hell did we just stumble upon? Because there's so many different little sub-factions and everything. They're not just going to pick off one or two at a time when they stumble on something like this, because Sarah Dunklin literally opened a door of several groups that claim to be working directly for the president or for the government and taking money from innocent people for a scam, for a pure scam, while they're pushing anti-government messages. Like, I don't know who thought this would be a good idea and they'd be able to get away with this forever, but this is some of the stupidest shit you could ever do. So as far as other arrests, which I did just see in the comments from Paige that Ryan Wilson has a warrant. So there's probably some warrants to come out, but as far as some like hardcore arrests, it's going to take a minute for them to get through all this, because David Straight, he was connected with Field McConnell and Timothy Holmseth. And then from David Straight, you have this whole other branch off of little bastard children like Francesca Amato and David Jose, who have been doing their own twists on it with mixes from the Sovereigns, the Hovens. And they have these magical affidavits that they inherited from a guy that was arrested for he did embezzling for like 15 million or something like that. Brandon Sparks, if I remember correctly, I think is his name. And he basically got convicted and sentenced to a very long time in jail. And what happened was he then decided to try this sovereign affidavit that basically said laws don't apply to me. Sorry about that. Lives don't apply for me. Their laws don't apply, so I can just be let out. So they basically adopted these affidavits and just kind of switched it around. And actually, with the Stark affidavit, they didn't even switch anything up. That's when Francesca Amato and David Jose were giving the opt-in option, where you could actually just fill this stuff out and you were just opted out of American laws, like it didn't exist anymore. So I mean, it's crazy. And then they got these other affidavits that they claim will get your children home, and they don't. Again, just like Timothy Holmseth being the one to verify that the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force exists, if you look up stuff on their affidavits getting children home, it's different Facebook posts saying, oh yeah, this totally worked to get my children home. There's no court documents whatsoever. There's nothing actually showing that any children were brought home by this affidavit. But David Jose does want love donations, and then Francesca Amato actually demands a $50 consultation fee. So that's the other thing, is that not only, as we go through this document here, these court docs, and kind of see what it's describing and what the police are looking for, another problem is as they're doing different, and not even just police, according to this, there's multiple agencies, but what they're describing, what they're looking for in the crime, they're all mimicking each other too. So as they find these different groups, it becomes real clear that these different groups are literally doing the same thing. David Straight takes donations to fly around the country and spew his bullshit in front of different crowds. David Jose asks for love donations. Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, they take donations through their live shows. Francesca does consultations. Before that, she used to just do donations, and all of it is under the promise and picking victims from the CPS crowd. So families involved with Child Protective Services cases are literally their targeted victims. So that's another thing that's going, this will probably take a second on this investigation, just because of how much just fraudulent activity there is, and just how far it spans out. It's amazing, and we'll kind of branch. Let's see where this goes, and we'll see where else to go. Now that we are kind of getting into this, I'm realizing how many different offshoots and whatnot there is to this. February 4th, 2020, defendant caused to be filed in the Circuit Court of Desha County, Arizona, cause number DR24, ex parte. Let's see. Upon filing the petition referred to in paragraph C above, defendant was contacted by a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, more specifically, Miss Kim L. Picazio. Now, remind you, Kim Picazio is the woman, that's the attorney in Florida that Field McConnell and Timothy Holmseth have been harassing. That woman is why Field is currently in jail, and why Timothy Holmseth is in jail. And right there, you already got another offshoot. Timothy's also in jail because of Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallet, which, again, they link off to Francesca and David. And then from Francesca and David, I see in the comments there, Char Michelle. It links off to people like Char Michelle, who claims to have a media outlet, but it does not exist. Literally does not exist. And she hunts on these different CPS victims, trying to get her name out off of their cases, doesn't offer anything for the situation, and literally supports these sovereign beliefs. Like right now, she's all over the Arlena Willis case and completely avoiding the fact that Arlena has entered at least 30 different sovereign affidavits in the last year and a half, tops. At least 30. I mean, just complete paper terrorism, sovereign beliefs, nonsense, and that part's totally skipped over. So it just spreads out so far, and it gets very frustrating. But Kim Picasio, Timothy Holmseth, not only did he go on the run, but he went on the run because of, it can almost be directly attributed to Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallet. Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallet do E-Claws. Man, all of this, like, even as I try, at times I have to laugh because it's so ridiculous. It's hard for me. I get it, it's desperation, but it's hard to understand how people are falling for this shit. So Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallet do E-Claws. They claim that they do audits for the government of different courts and whatnot. They claim that they're legal experts and they want to do remonstrances to take away everything. And John Gentry used to be a part of them, and they'd be on Kirk's Law Country or Law Corner. Here's the problem with Kirk, mainly Kirk. Chris, I haven't paid enough attention to Chris, but I imagine it's a similar sort of deal. Kirk is really good for this sort of scam because he is excellent at remembering all this stuff. This guy can spit it out like nobody's business. If he actually went to law school and learned what he was doing, he would probably be a damn good attorney, honestly, just because of his memory retention and everything. The problem is Kirk Pendergrass did not go to law school. He has a criminal record, both of them do, which I don't think the criminal record should be held against people. I'm all about second chances and all that good stuff. But the thing with Kirk is that he learns all this law. Yes, Timothy Holmseth is on the run. Field McConnell is in jail. Sorry if I screwed those two up. I'm trying to keep like 80 different sovereign scam artists together. So Kirk Pendergrass, though, he's amazing at retaining this information. He's amazing at spitting it out. If you know nothing about the law, it sounds super impressive. It sounds like this guy knows what he's talking about. And the fact of the matter is he doesn't. The reason why Kirk could not be a good lawyer right now is that he has nobody explaining to him what any of this stuff means. He's not using it right. He puts his own perception on this and his own understanding, which is incorrect. They buy Black's Law and they go by Black's Law, which Black's Law is not going to get you all the way through law school. That's like entry-level shit that they pass out. So Kirk learns all this garbage, and it's not garbage. I'm even being a little too rude on that one. I mean, it is important information. If he had someone who actually knew what they were talking about standing over him to correct it when he did not misunderstand what he was learning. So Kirk and Chris Hallet went to go help Timothy. I would love to see Kirk get tased out. Kirk, David, Fran, all of them. Every single one. I would like to see them get hit with a taser. But so Kirk and Chris, they got involved with Timothy Holmseth and Field McConnell. And I don't remember if this is confirmed or not. Glow might actually be able to confirm this in the comments. Glow or Paige might. But I believe Timothy actually told, Kirk actually suggested to Timothy to not show up to his court date. And then that's what Timothy did. He went on the run because why not? So, if I remember correctly, that's how a lot of that played out. And he was about to be sentenced, if I remember correct, for breaking court orders with the whole Kim Picasio situation. From there, Field McConnell got arrested, and Kirk and Chris were supposed to be helping Field McConnell. And that did not happen, like at all. And it actually turned out another good YouTube channel to watch with that keeps up with a lot of this stuff. Like Glow keeps up with this stuff. Agent 19 keeps up with this stuff, and Agent 19 is actually pretty good with what he does. That's the YouTube channel for Agent 19. But he pointed out that they actually didn't even understand that they could have bonded Field out of jail. Instead, and this is where things get a little sketchy. I kind of want to look a little bit deeper into this, but like the rumor in the grapevine is that Kirk basically like stole a car and money or some shit. He was staying at Field's, and Timothy was staying there while Field was in jail, and they were supposed to be getting him out of jail and all this other crazy shit. And he ended up like packing up a computer, getting in a car, and just leaving the situation. And then Timothy Holmseth started calling them out because, God, this sounds insane to tell to people. so Kirk and Chris both confirmed they were with the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force as well. But after all that went down with Timothy and with Field, Timothy actually said Kirk and Chris were never part of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. They never were. And he completely denounced them. And so that, like, it's just weird. It's fucking weird. But so that's where Kim Picasio is in this situation. Kim Picasio plays a pretty big role in like firing off a lot of what we're about to see happen. About to happen. It's like a combination of Kim Picasio being like, you know what, fuck all of you, and then Cynthia Abzug being arrested for possibly conspiring to kidnap her child with Field McConnell. And just an FYI, because this is another thing that like the Northwest Liberty News thing does a lot, and I don't really dig. The person that turned in Cynthia Abzug was her daughter, and it wasn't some cornered by the police and said all this stuff thing in a couple hours. Cynthia Abzug's daughter was telling her counselor about it for weeks before they finally decided to get law enforcement involved. Her daughter also said that Cynthia was getting abusive towards her, and she was going down these conspiracy spirals, and it transformed from just talking about QAnon stuff to actually planning this raid where they were going to kidnap the child with members of QAnon, which turns out is Field McConnell and Sarah Dunklin and all of them, which another thing with the Northwest thing saying that she has no connections to QAnon. She literally does. That is Field McConnell and all of them because they openly supported all of that. Another side note, last May, the FBI actually deemed QAnon potentially to be a domestic terrorist group. So they basically got thrown in the same group as Sovereign. So that's another reason why the Cynthia Abzug aspect of all of this is going to be kind of interesting, because this is the first time you're watching charges go on where they say that it was planned with somebody from the QAnon group, and with that happening after the FBI determining them to be a potential domestic terrorist group. So you actually got two different possible domestic terrorism groups here in the eyes of the federal government, and that would be just the Sovereign movement and then the QAnon movement. So it's a very volatile situation legally as far as how this could be prosecuted and how it will be prosecuted. So where were we there? QAnon, Field McConnell, Kim Pacasio. Okay, so that's somewhat up to speed on there, I think. Just, I guess, let me know in the comments if I did forget where I was going with that. Again, it's hard to keep track of all of this madness and then be able to try it in some sort of comprehensible fashion. It's hard, man. This is not an easy group. Another thing, though, in the description of this, there is the last article that I did on this, which here, let me zoom out real quick. And, oh, there we go. This article, I didn't really do too many reference links up there this time. This article, though, will, for the most part, reference you to, I mean, just about all of it. It branches off to different videos, which we'll scroll through this and go through this and whatnot. But it has links to actual documents so you can read it for yourself. That's another thing I like to do. I try and let you guys be able to read everything for yourself. I try and include all the different links and whatnot so that you can go see the court documents. I don't want you to just hear me telling you what they say, and that's even when I do articles too. I try and give you guys all the legal evidence that's out there. In articles, you'll get more of just the legal side, and then when I do stuff on these lives, I'll definitely give more of my opinion at times. But for the most part, I like to give you guys what is directly out there, especially if it's a legal situation, for you to make up your own minds and see what is out there. There's a few people that don't appear to trust their followers enough to give them that sort of information. Northwest Liberty News. Oh. So, all right, let's get back over to here. So, let me, where is my mouse? Okay, hold on, guys. I'm having a special moment, apparently. Either that or my mouse is having a special moment. Is my mouse having a special moment? Or it was me. I was having a special moment. All these sovereigns are frying my brain out. Oh, man. That's exactly what I do. You know, that's almost like part of the scheme there is that, Matt, what you just said, I've tried so hard to comprehend what this group is talking about. They pull random passages from Black's Law Manual and then just say, see, it it is what it is. That is 100% correct. And that's part of the confusion. That's what they do to confuse you. And they'll grab little parts of things that are true. And that's how they confirm the 10 minutes of bullshit before that, is they give you 30 seconds of this part actually is true. And again, like with Kirk, his memory retention's great. His ability to spit all this garbage out, how he does it, is great. But he is not legally trained. He does not know what he's reading. He does not understand what he's reading at all. Like, literally at all. He does not understand what he's reading. John Gentry, that actually taught these guys the remonstrance that all of them are talking about now. Francesca Amato's talked about it. David Jose, all remonstrances. John Gentry, who's no longer part of the Kirk's Law Corner thing, put together this remonstrance that was supposed to basically destroy the Tennessee bar. I mean, basically the Tennessee government. Like, it was just going to be done, gone, out of there. And it's a thing from like the 1800s, and these guys don't even know how to put it together. Like John Gentry's remonstrance, I actually tried to read it, and I did read a good chunk of it, and it was painful. I'm not an attorney, but I deal with legal documents enough for years now that I have a general idea. I don't give legal advice because I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that remonstrance was terrible. It was not correct on any level. It was basically making random claims, even though Tennessee was the target. Like John Gentry was talking about things going on in Florida to somehow demand the courts in Tennessee close down. He was bringing up issues in Florida. Like, this does not make sense. And that's the same sort of nonsense stuff that Fran puts out and all these guys put out. It's just nonsense. It's not even the start of a legal document. So, God, I felt like I was doing good with explaining everyone and keeping everybody in like an understandable manner, but man, just the more you dig into it and start to explain all the different roles, it just gets harder and harder. Oh, shit. Okay. I think we're doing decent, though. If there are questions, feel free to put questions in the comments. If I don't see it, just ask again. I'm new with this commenting system and like the stuff that I'm seeing on the back end here. So I'm looking at Facebook and YouTube comments at the same time. If I miss it, just ask again or put it in all caps and just yell at me till I see it. I definitely won't be mad at you for having a question because this is confusing shit. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's important though. People are turning to these people to get the custody back, get custody of their children back. Like, they're people that are never going to see their children again if they do this stuff. Arlena Willis is still one of the perfect examples who she was like Fran and David Jose's golden child of what these affidavits could do and that it would just end your CPS case. And she's in jail as we speak after entering, I found around 30 just nonsensical affidavits that she turned into the court in like literally the last year and a half. I've looked at court cases for years. I'm going on this is going to be like 7 years that I've been doing media stuff. I never saw anything like all of Arlena's filings, and none of them make sense. Arlena claims that she's not under their jurisdiction. When she was in the CPS aspect of her case, she refused to respond because she said she wasn't in their jurisdiction. She said she was filing in federal and she was going to pull everybody into her jurisdiction in federal. It was just all of this nonsense. And there's word that Arlena got her rights terminated, but that hasn't been 100% confirmed. That information is more coming from Crystal Nuttall, who is a known sovereign citizen, and actually she was convicted for helping kidnap a child from CPS care with 3 other women, and Shara Michelle, who again does not have an outlet. She lies daily. I've been one of the people in her comment section for over a year now. She lies daily. They're definitely not credible sources. They're just out there saying how innocent Arlena is instead of looking at any of the actual evidence that's out there. But for the most part, it looks like Crystal Nuttall is one of Shara's main sources in Crystal again. And Crystal is deep sovereign. Deep sovereign. Like, a lot deeper than some of these other ones. Fran and David, I think, are kind of more just losing their minds and going towards it. Crystal's like probably up there at that like David Strait level of sovereign. Some of the documents that she filed in her defense. Do you know what? Here, let's even just pull that up. This is actually a document that Crystal Nuttall filed after she was convicted of this helping a kidnapping. Sorry, I got a lot of different documents on our script. There we go. Okay, so this is a declaration of indictment, and it's made by the American National Union of the United States of America and Party. So, like, once you get into the super deep sovereign world, they actually have their own, like, international courts and shit. I've had them message me before out of anger saying that I shouldn't be talking about them. I'm putting their lives at risk, all this other shit, and that their law does work and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't. I mean, it literally doesn't. It's imaginary. But hey, there's actually Kim Picasio. Surprisingly enough, Kim, you're actually part of the topic. This is basically a summary of everything that's going on, and I think you're partially to thank. So honestly, I do thank you for any help that you've put in on getting this stuff started up. So basically, this was a catch up and an explanation on what's going on with Sarah Dunklin, Timothy Holmseth, Field McConnell, and all that, and then the branch offs of like Fran, David Jose, Crystal Nuttall, Arlena Willis, just this whole group of sovereign scam artists that have hooked up. I mean, they're all basically the same. They're all connected. And then since their main beliefs are coming from Sovereign, we basically have been, and I guess to any of the new watchers, this has also been kind of a summary on what Sovereigns actually believe, what they're pushing on people, and just the dangers of it, the overall dangers, and then basically what we could possibly expect from some of these developments that do seem to. I imagine it's going to happen. I don't think this is going to take a very long time, but I do think this is going to take a minute for any investigations to be able to put this together in an organized manner. Just because, again, there is so many little factions and everything. But this group is pretty, I mean, they were all following the same scheme. They're all in communication with each other. This whole group shouldn't take that long to really take them all out, honestly. It might be, I see things happening sooner than later, but again, there's just so many involved. It could take a minute to get everybody rounded up. So anyways, Crystal Nuttall, this is Arlena Willis's advocate, and again, she was convicted for what happened. Was her and three other women, I believe it was three other women and a child's mother. Yeah, I think her and four others. It was either her and four others or her and three others. Either way, there was other women and the mother. So a group of women with this mother of the mother's child was in CPS care. And so they went to the office, and at first Crystal and the other women were trying to make a distraction outside in the parking lot so that the mother of this child could kidnap the child from the CPS office and run out and get away. And then when that wasn't working, I believe Crystal was one of the ones with a few others, or one other. They ran inside and caused a distraction inside the offices for this mother to actually flee from there with her child. Then they ended up staying at Crystal Nuttall's and being arrested, obviously, days later. I believe all that was in Arizona. I think that was Arizona, yeah. So Crystal was convicted of that. And this declaration of indictment, and that's right, that's where we were going whenever I saw Kim in the chat. Okay, so that's where we were going with this. Crystal is a little bit deeper in this sovereign stuff, and actually a lot bit deeper into this sovereign stuff, at least deeper than like Francesca Amato. David Jose, he could be somewhere around this. He did sign away his name to Reigns of Heaven. I think it's Reign of Heaven or Reign of Fire. It's a bigger sovereign group, and I know I got that in one of my articles on him. But he actually signed away to Reign of Heaven, which, oh no, I can't think of his name. Randy Davis Page. I was just talking about it with someone earlier. Who's Bears Law? Bears Law went to jail in Florida for kidnapping. Ronnie Davis. Never mind. I just remembered it. Okay. Ronnie Davis was actually part of the same group as David Jose and signed off his name to the same sovereign group. So David definitely got a little bit deeper. David Straight, I think, is probably pretty intertwined with this stuff, and same with Field, same with Timothy. I believe that they're probably doing this like fake court shit. So once you get really deep into the world of the sovereigns, they hold these tribunals, these courts, they claim that it's international. How one broke it down to me was that they. So the example he gave me was he had two cops that had arrested him, and they held an international court date on him in their sovereign court, and they delivered him, or they served him, and then he didn't respond. Neither of the cops responded. So this international sovereign court found both cops guilty, and I was like, so what happened? And the guy was like, well, we found them guilty because they didn't respond. And again, that's something that even Francesca uses now, like when she claims that she shut down Ulster County Court. If the New York Attorney General, was it Leticia James or whatever, if she doesn't respond, then it's in the middle of guilt. Not how that works. Not how that works at all. First off, it's an affidavit. They don't got to goddamn respond to it. It's not a contract. Not how that works. But yeah, this guy told me that they convicted these two cops because they did not respond to the nonsensical documents they received. When I kept on pointing out that so nothing happened. Because I asked him, are they still on the force? He said they're still on the force. I said, are they still free? And they were still free. So it's like, what happened? If you guys held a court date and you found him guilty, what happened? What is the end result? What was the point of finding him guilty or even the court date? And he told me that they were on a list, that it would be on an international list. And if they tried to travel, it would catch up to them and all this other nonsense. So in other words, nothing happened. Nothing goddamn happened. 9 times out of 10, that's what's going to happen with sovereign law. Nothing's going to happen. Then that 1 time out of 10, you're going to piss off authorities and you're going to get fucking arrested for paper terrorism or something else. So, David Straight, David Jose maybe, but like David Straight, Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, I see them possibly being in deep with these sort of sovereign courts like Crystal Nuttall is. Again, the advocate for Arlena Willis, who's facing Arlena could die in prison if she doesn't start cooperating with the court and start letting her attorney try and do something to save her ass. She could literally die in jail. And that's because of these sovereign teachings, Francesca Amato, David Jose, these affidavits that they adopted from the Havens and David Straight, which they adopted from Field McConnell and Timothy Holmseth. I mean, it's just, and then Sarah Dunklin, who, again, Sarah seems to be one of these connecting factors that kind of brought all these little assholes together. But this document, though, which is also an impressive document. This is put together way better than David and Friends garbage, which is also a little bit unnerving about the sovereign group. These guys sat down and put time into this nonsensical document. This document means literally nothing, and it's 13 pages. And look at how much time that they put into it. That's concerning, for sure. I don't even know if you guys want to read some of this. Article 11, everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty according to law in a public trial at which he has had all the guarantees necessary for his defense. Affiant guilt was predetermined, with affiant's right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty was denied. Initially, affiant's legal defense was competent, but during the proceedings, affiant's defense attorney was impacted by some forced to discontinue appropriate legal and competent defense. Audio of December 29th, 2016, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing that definitely blows my mind, and I haven't even really gotten into deep with the sovereign court systems and stuff like that. But we will get there as we continue to watch this evolve and everything. But this actually, Crystal Nuttall's friends with this guy, Stephen R. Isham, acknowledged and affirmed on this day of date, January 4th, 2018, the foreman of the Great Jury of the United States of America. The Great Jury has identified violations in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So and that's one common thing too with the different courts of the sovereigns. It's like a spin-off always. If you'll notice, instead of a grand jury, it's a great jury. What is it? Their court. I know one of these. Maybe it wasn't this document. It might have been a different one. But yeah, great jury instead of grand jury. So a little minor difference. And then things like the American National Union of the United States of America and Party. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy shit. But so that is an example of how far this stuff has gone down. Just how many people it's affecting. And literally it can all be tied back to the exact same people. Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, Sarah Dunklin, Francesca Amato, David Jose, Kirk Pendergrass, Chris Hallet. I mean, that's going to be your main core right there. And Michelle Walker, Michaela Walker, Michelle Walker, how do you say her name? Her and Tank, those two in Lawful America. I'm going to play with those two. I'm going to play with those two in the pretty near future, but not yet. Probably sooner than later, though. Little Miss Walker. Plaintiff is involved in an organization called the QAnon movement. A man named Field McConnell, hereinafter Mr. McConnell, and all the Children's Crusades, or Able Danger, criminal enterprise. These organizations and or people are currently being investigated by the FBI and state authorities. Field McConnell is presently incarcerated in Pierce County, Wisconsin, pending extradition to Broward County, Florida, to face 3 felony charges for terroristic threats, aggravated stalking, and threats to shoot public officials, public buildings. Please see attached hereto as Exhibit B, a copy of the Pierce County jail roster. So this is where things start getting a little bit more serious for Sarah. And again, this is where it ties back into Cynthia Abzug and Kirk Pendergrass, Field McConnell, all of them, and then the actual QAnon ties that everybody says Cynthia doesn't have. She does. I mean, and I get it. That's one problem with a lot of these, with this CPS thing, the hardcore followers of CPS, because at the end of the day, so many of our government agencies do have a lot of problems. CPS is such a good place for scams like this to work because the system is seriously screwed up right now. It needs an overhaul, for sure. There's no denying that. There's no denying of the foster to human trafficking or foster to prison system. No denial of that. There's some issues there. It is 100% issues all throughout the system. But that is the other half of this problem. A lot of times you do find issues where caseworkers were basically acting outside their duty, acting outside their law. With the privatization of CPS, that's kind of protected them from a lot of being held accountable for the most part. So these parents who, and I don't mean any insult here or anything, a lot of these parents that are in CPS, they're not going to have the most money to hire an attorney. They're not going to be legally educated. I'm not saying that they're stupid. I'm saying that they're not legally educated. And that there's nothing wrong with that. Law is hard. It's not easy stuff. So it's these perfect victims that don't have the money, they don't have the legal expertise to fight it themselves. And then they see, like, let's say they are actually a victim of a broken CPS system. Well, they see that agency acting outside of the law, and then they hear these lunatics talking. And out of desperation, these guys are holding the glass of water in the middle of the desert. Like, this is their savior right here. And that, again, just like with the black salve and the different wacko medical treatments for cancer patients, shit like that, that's how it works, is desperation. They target desperate people that will try anything to fix their situation. It's hope. It's a whether it be false or not, it's hope when they're completely beaten down. Because at the end of the day, too, you got to remember, having your kids taken, that's going to cause emotional damage. I mean, unless you are a incredibly screwed up human being, that's going to cause your mental state to go downhill, and it's going to cause it to go downhill pretty quick. Now, at the same time, this CPS group that causes a lot of problems is saying every single parent is innocent, that they were all wrongfully taken. And that's not true. And it really makes that entire reform movement into a joke, a total joke. If you look into a lot of these groups, like Connie Regulize, I really don't, at one point I actually did like Connie Regulize. I don't know if she just fried her brain out or what, but like if you go into her social media group, the Family Forward Project, it's a mess. And there's like 14,000 people in there. There's sovereigns, there's child abusers, there's child molesters, there's drug addicts, there's people suggesting that you should take your kids and run. It is the wild fucking west of advocates. It's fucking crazy, and it's allowed to exist though. So that's another thing that feeds into these people like Field and Timothy and Fran and the Sharas and the Crystals and the Arlenas. It feeds into them because of fucking nobody in these groups are really stepping up and saying, no, guys, this is wrong. Yeah, and everything is medical kidnapping. Everything is medical kidnapping. But not everything is medical kidnapping. And again, Arlena Willis is the most perfect example of how bad something like this can go. Because not only does she listen to these teachings that can be accredited to any one of these people, because they're all spewing the same bullshit, so it can 100% be accredited to Kirk, Chris, Francesca, David, Field, Timothy, all the same nonsense. She, with her CPS tried so many times to get her to respond to them. She was going on her Facebook and just scribbling on the letters that they were sending to her and saying that she didn't have to respond. I mean, in her world, she just literally did not have to respond to CPS. She claimed that she was not in their jurisdiction. She claimed that the capitalization of her letters were not, or the letters in her name were not correct. Yes, there is, now with the bleach enemas, possible bleach enemas, right now that is a possibility. That's word going around. That hasn't been confirmed as of yet. Her child was bleeding from the anus and was in the hospital. She was refusing treatments. The actual criminal charge begins, I think it was September 17th, 2018, and then goes for almost a year. So she was doing something to her child for a year that has gotten her felony to child abuse with intent. So I would lean towards that. Sounds like she was doing some sort of crazy ass online holistic fucking MMS bleach water because her son was autistic as well. So MMS, if you've never heard of that, there are the groups that believe that bleach water can cure autism, and it's one of the more popular whack job medication. Well, not medication, but things that's out there. So there's definitely warning signs. The affidavit so far and whatnot and everything that's been released really didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but given the sovereign nature that she's taken in her legal case afterwards and just everything surrounding it, there's a pretty good chance that she was possibly using some sort of crazy MMS therapy or something. But Arlena, though, with everybody, because a lot of people on her case are saying that it was a medical kidnap. A lot of these people claim the medical kidnap thing, which I did see Melissa Deagle was out of jail, and I did see her interview, and we are going to watch that and go over that, but I don't think we're going to do that tonight. We'll probably do that tomorrow or the next day. I kind of want to get it. On my old site, the Daily Haze, I had a full article on Melissa Deagle where I really went into it. I think I still have that draft. So I want to put that back up and maybe add a few things before I put it back out there. So we're going to touch Melissa Deagle here soon. But with Arlena Willis and the whole medical kidnap and everything, CPS tried repeatedly to get Arlena to cooperate with them, and she would not. She has either just recently been TPR'd or she's getting ready to be TPR'd. The reason why Arlena's case is so great to see how bad this shit can go, and it's such a good warning for parents, is not only did these affidavits not work, and you can look up her court documents, you can look up all the different affidavits, there are tons of them, they did not work. Not only did they not work, but they didn't work in a situation where CPS was trying to get her to do what she needed to do to get the child back. Like, the child is not in state care. He went over to his dad's care. This was not any sort of long case fighting to get this kid back. Arizona was literally like, somebody take this kid. We don't want it. We need you to do your job as a parent and get your kid back. Arlena wouldn't do it. So the argument of medical kidnap, I mean, that it doesn't work with Arlena's situation. The fact that she's being railroaded because she was going to expose something, not true. That wasn't going to happen there either. It just wasn't. She had no following on social media. She didn't have any new information, which again, and I want to keep on pointing this out because people like Melissa Deagle in situations like that, the scammers say that they're like exposing all this stuff, and they're taking down pedophiles and they're exposing human trafficking rings. No, they're not. And I've done this before. I'll do it again. I know this won't be the last time. I typed in Google search, foster system human trafficking. And a lot of stuff came up. I mean, this is not a secret. They're not exposing anything. Melissa Deagle is not exposing anything. That is not common knowledge. Maybe you just never looked for this information before. But Francesca Amato, David Straight, Timothy Holmseth, all of them, they're not exposing anything that is not known. Unless they have some sort of document of a judge selling a child, they have a video of a judge selling a child, a government official selling a child, they are honest to God not exposing anything because it's already well known. The foster to human trafficking system or pipeline, it's known. It is well known. It's a known problem. I mean, these are not articles from 10 years ago. There was 12 million results on that search. 12,700,000 results on that search. So this whole thing that they're exposing stuff, again, unless they are uploading a video directly to their Facebook and showing you, we got this video of this judge selling this child, they are not exposing anything. Not at all. On any level. I can't say that enough, because that puts a big flaw in a lot of their claims. Like, Arlena was not going to take this stuff down. Arlena wasn't even a bump in the road of the foster to human trafficking pipeline. Not even a little bump. So, again, with Arlena, you see all these all the normal claims, they just aren't there. It wasn't about CPS trying to keep the kid. They were trying to get the kid back. It wasn't about Arlena exposing CPS for trafficking kids. It's already out there. It's already known. She has misinformation of information that's already out there, just like Fran and Timothy and them, that they get bits of information, completely confuse it, regurgitate it, and so they're actually putting out pieces of misinformation when the actual information's already out there. You'd be better off to just Google search it than listen to the diarrhea coming out of these people's mouths. So like with Arlena, though, like I said, you have all the normal reasons of why this is happening. They aren't there. They just don't exist on any level. Arlena screwed it up for herself. But it is because of these same sovereign teachings that this woman will most likely never see her autistic son again, and a very good chance that she will die in jail. That's the reality of it. And a lot of people say, show me where somebody turned an affidavit in and they got arrested. It doesn't work like that either. If you're using sovereign law and you're turning in these sovereign affidavits, you're not just going to go straight to jail on day one. You're going to be ordered a mental evaluation. They're going to start watching you. There's a good chance, if you do like Arlena did, because even David said now there's supposed to be a second and then a third affidavit, because right now, like, the first one's just put them on notice. Then you send in another one after they're put on notice, and then you send in another one. And so that's normally what goes on with this sovereign bullshit, is that you keep on sending in these different documents, and that's where the term paper terrorism comes from, because they literally flood the courts with these documents that mean nothing. And the unfortunate thing is that when all these documents are filed with the courts, somebody still has to go through that bullshit. Somebody has to try and make sense of it, and somebody's being paid to do that. So that's where, like, I believe Florida is one of the places that started pressing charges for paper terrorism. And I know other states have talked about it, because a few states are like, what the hell are we going to do about this sovereign nonsense? They're clogging up the court. They make no sense. What the hell do we do? So no, you won't just get thrown in jail for using the teachings of these people, unless you just push it way too far. But there is a very good chance that you're going to have a mental evaluation. If it's a document that's clearly sovereign and it raises enough concern, you can end up on a federal domestic terrorist watch list, which is not something you want to be on, especially if you're in the middle of trying to get your children back from Child Protective Services. Like, nowhere, not one attorney in the history of attorneys would tell you what you want in the middle of a CPS case is to be called a possible domestic terrorist. That is not very beneficial for your case of getting custody back of your children. Man, we've strayed off a few times from this. I swear this live's going a little bit longer than I had thought it was going to, but it's okay. We don't have a super far way to go. That the defendant has viewed some of the various YouTube videos and recognized the plaintiff as a caller and participant in McConnell's channel, and was additionally recognized in said videos as said person to be plaintiff. And that's where which actually, I think Flo already left. I saw Flo saying they retired. Let me see. This is actually from Flo's BitChute, because, or Glowfree's BitChute. Glowfree, God, was that even them then that was on earlier? I don't even know. I swear, trying to keep these guys straight, then doing lives about them, it's a nightmare. It's literally a nightmare. It's hard to keep your brain straight while trying to understand all this nonsense. So this is Sarah Dunklin. We won't watch this whole video because it's 27 minutes long. But in that document where they were talking about calling in and everything, this is Sarah Dunklin calling in to Field McConnell, and they talk about Cynthia Abzug.
Okay, I know who you think you are. Go ahead. This is Field.
Hi, Field. How are you?
I'm fine, and I'm live, and you know I'm live.
Yes. Did you request that call?
No, I request anybody. I'm eating lunch, so you take it. Say anything you want to say, but the context of the show so far is letting some fat slob married to a guy with erectile dysfunction. I'm letting her know that her days are numbered. Over to you, and don't say your name. Let's call you Agent Conway.
Okay. More than just her days are numbered. Some other people's days are numbered as well.
Okay.
And we got confirmation of that. It's just we're all waiting now, but it won't be long. Do you agree?
I totally agree, and I want you to correct me. I just said it will be no longer than the Marine Corps birthday on the 10th of November or Veterans Day. But listen, I tried to retire. I asked Trump yesterday in a private conversation if I could stand down. That's military talk for retire.
Field McConnell, this guy, the guy that refers to a child that was possibly sexually assaulted as Sphincter Boy, Field McConnell claims that he was talking to the President of the United States of America the other day and asked if he could step down. And people believe this. Again, desperation. Desperation is a hell of a thing. He has he's like over 40,000 followers on YouTube or something like that. So that's the other problem with these guys, is that a good chunk of them have a strong audience. Francesca and David, they used to have a decent audience. I don't think they were ever quite up to that level. We really hammered the shit out of their audience over the last year or so, and not even, I know Randy Davis, the Watchman, he's helped with that, destroying their whole crowd and everything. A few people have, but that's the other thing that makes these guys dangerous. You got Field McConnell, he's spewing his bullshit hate to over 40,000 people potentially. Pastor Dan, I think he has 81,000 subscribers. And then that's the other thing, is these guys go on each other's channels. So you're talking about a potential reach of hundreds of thousands of people where they're just pushing this crazy shithead nonsense. I mean, it's terrifying if you really break down. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why we've played with these guys for so long. It's because you're talking about just such a large reach and so many people blindly following it, and surprisingly so many people believing it. And it has the potential to do, I don't even really know how much damage. If Field just went on every channel that he had and said, everybody go grab a gun and go shoot a caseworker today, unfortunately, somebody's going to do it. And you don't know how many somebodies there's going to be. So, there is a lot of different serious aspects to this. There's definitely a lot of serious aspects to understand why federal agencies are getting involved and why now, because all of them also are following this anti-government thing. Right now you got Fran talking about arrest and abolish. She's telling people to go arrest and abolish judges and pushing this whole thing when she has no authority whatsoever. So, in other words, while she's connected to these sovereigns who are defined as domestic terrorists, she is on social media pushing a message of anti government. Now, whether you like Fran or not, I can guarantee you Francesca, David Jose, David Straight, Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, Kirk Pendergrass, Chris Hallet. These are not people that you want to be connected with or affiliated with in any way, shape, or form over these next few months to a year or to however long this takes. These definitely are not guys that you want to be around. This could go pretty bad. You're talking about Field, who's already in jail for threats on an official and on a public building. You're talking about Holmseth, who's on similar charges. You're talking about Cynthia Abzug, who is a attempted kidnapping with a conspiracy group declared as domestic terrorists. This is a lot more serious than I think a lot of people are taking it. And I think the federal government's going to take it equally serious. And again, especially when you factor in that all of them are pushing their own anti-government message, that their knowledge of the law is superior to the government's. Kirk and Chris believe that they are better trained than any attorney, judge out there to date. It's crazy. But the problem is that for the time being, they're not going away. But again, we keep on saying it. I've seen people say it in the comments even. It's desperation. That's the same as whack job medicines. It's the same as putting black salve on a sore that you think is cancer because you think black salve only eats cancer. It is just pure desperation. And so the people, they turn to this out of desperation. They're easy victims. They're super easy victims. So it's sad. It really is. It's sad. And again, because we joke about this a lot, but I joke about a lot of stuff. I have to joke about a lot of this stuff. I see a lot of negative shit on a daily basis. Not so much right now because of, I haven't really been full speed lately. But you got to find a reason to laugh at some of this stuff, especially with all of these guys just because of how stupid they are. But at the end of the day, man, it's not funny. There's not a lot of funny things about here. Hell, even Kim in the comments. Kim, I'd say, is a hell of a sport in the comments. But if it really comes down to it, I don't think you want to go through what the fuck Kim had to go through with these lunatics, threatening her, saying all this shit to her, going online, saying that she's a kidnapper, saying all this crazy shit. That's serious stuff. On the outside, you might just laugh at it and see him like, well, those crazy bastards, what the hell? It's very easy to look at it like that and not consider actually having these random lunatics writing books and publishing things about you being a kidnapper. Even right there, I laugh about it because it's crazy, but if you think about being on the receiving end of that, that's a nightmare. And so that, what happened with Kim is even a good example of exactly how far these guys will go, how far Timothy will go, how far Field will go. And that doubles back to that question of how far the people that listen to them willing to go. Kirk and Chris, they're right there too. And same with Fran, David, like some of them, while their audience has definitely shrank down, there's going to be some that just never leave. They will not get away from them until they get burned by them. Or they go down in flames with them. Which, that's kind of a lead a horse to water sort of deal. But all of them are going to have that fan base that will not abandon them no matter what, unfortunately. And it's those guys that you got to be a little bit more concerned about, because like I said, if Field wasn't in jail, and Field did take to all of his different outlets, contacted all of his different buddies with hundreds of thousands of followers, and went on there and said, go shoot a caseworker, you have the potential for there's a potential for some really bad shit to come out of this. I mean, just really bad shit. And then you think about some of the other victims. Again, I keep on going back to Arlena. Looking at jail, possibly for the rest of your life, never seeing your kid again. I mean, we laugh about this stuff, but there's real victims as we speak. And then there's even real victims still that aren't even coming forward. What's her name? That David Jose. They got her a car and everything. They were supposed to get her kid back, I think, almost a year ago. Her kid never got home. They like raised $500 and bought her a piece of shit car or something like that, and basically called it good. That's crazy. Man, I mean, she still stands with them. I cannot remember her damn name. And I bet Randy Davis will comment it here in a minute if he still has. Shannon King. Thank you, Paige. Shannon King. Her kid was supposed to be home. Like months and months and months ago. Her kid was supposed to be home from all this crazy nonsense that's passed down from David Strait to David Jose to Fran and all of them. Her kid's not home, but she's still not speaking out. I guarantee there's a lot more victims of all of these people that just aren't speaking out yet, either because they're still believe them for whatever reason, and some, honestly are probably a little nervous to speak out. I know just some of Fran's crowd can be ruthless. I've had so many come at me, but I'm a little different than most. My skin's pretty thick, so they normally end up blocking me when they realize that wasn't a smart idea. But they can be aggressive if you don't have thick skin. If you don't know that, I know the inside. I know the internet in and out. Kim Page is over on the Facebook end of things. I'm seeing Facebook and YouTube comments. Paige, why don't you go hop on YouTube? Kim was just asking where you were. But yeah, I'm a little bit. I know the internet. I know the worst places of the internet. I know the best places of the internet. So as far as like any sort of getting under my skin is really hard to do. But man, I can tell you, a couple of Fran's followers actually messaged me saying that they were going to set me up for child porn. Admitted in a message that they were going to set me up for that. I screenshot that and made a post of it, and they blocked me once I figured out their real name, because they have a few of those like fake anonymous people that just post a picture with an anonymous mask and think they're a fucking anon, which is not true. Like, most of them aren't even script kiddies. They have no knowledge of fucking computer shit. It's not scary to me. A picture of an anonymous mask does not make me scared of you. And so there's been a few of them that when they would message me and they were using their little fake alias, and then I went and tracked down their name, and all of a sudden they don't want to play anymore and they block me. So I can see like a regular person who's already been going through this has been had their kids taken from them, is giving these people money. Now all of a sudden they're backed in the corner that all these alleged hackers and shit are going to come after them if they come forward. That would be fucking terrifying for a normal person. I can 100% see why you wouldn't want to come forward. I can 100% see why you would believe that. That's kind of the same as with the legal stuff. Not everybody knows about computer stuff. Not everybody knows how hacking works, how the anonymous thing works. They just hear hacking, and it's scary to some people. It's understandable. So that's just my experience. of being threatened just from Fran's group. So I can't even imagine once you get into, well, I can imagine. I've had a lot of different enemies, so never mind. Again, I'm kind of a bad example for how shitty things can go when I used to piss off the white supremacists a lot. So that really broke me in because those guys can get pretty nasty pretty quick. So my skin's a little thick. I'm not really a good example, but I think I'm making my point there that going against some of these guys, especially some of the crazier ones like Field, where he's constantly talking about guns and shooting people and shit. I get why people wouldn't want to come out yet, and that there probably is a lot more victims than we're even aware of, and that we may ever know. I mean, even after they go to jail, there'll probably be some people that just want to move on with their life and they don't want to talk about it. They just want to move on, which is 100% understandable. Anyways, we'll get back to here. It is, so we just showed there Able Danger, Sarah Dunklin being on Able Danger again. If you, of course, you can't see that on that page. Well, on BitChute.com, BITCU. Actually, you know what? Here, I think I can throw this in the messages on both. Quite possibly. I think that just went in the messages. I just put a link to the glow-free BitChute. You can pop over there and see some of that stuff for yourself if you want to. That has Sarah Dunklin going on Field McConnell. That has Cynthia Abzug on Field McConnell. Glow-free's been doing a pretty damn good job of. What happened was Field McConnell deleted a lot of these videos when shit started going south. So channels like Glow-free have done a really good job of preserving those videos and keeping them up on separate channels, and they were even getting removed from YouTube, so that's why that moved over to BitChute. The Field Report, which is Field's channel now, is actually doing copyright claims on them, so they had to be removed. So BitChute, they got a little bit more freedom. And then also on this channel, the Cynthia Abzug video, I actually did a live with it like this, which that basically they can't take it down, so that there's a group of people that have been working a pretty long time on all of these different people, and I think like all of us are kind of starting to find each other too, and like, oh shit, okay, these guys are assholes too. So that's nice that's happening as well. But yeah, there's several different groups and different people that turns out have been paying attention to these different groups and these different people. So it's like our kiddos have been playing with each other and having play dates, and now we're all kind of coming together to watch this grand finale of everything just exploding. So that's where, yeah, there's, as far as any of these videos go, as far as any screenshots go, to anybody involved with this, any of Field's people, any of that, there's just too many people watching this at this point. You're not gonna delete any of this away. It's gone too far. That's just is what it is. It is believed that plaintiff screens individuals from chat rooms and Facebook groups to find the best guests to put on the Able Danger show with Mr. McConnell. The guests will then get an invitation to call the show, speak with Mr. McConnell on air, and the listening audience will make donations to the Children's Crusade. Mr. McConnell on air promises to get the guests' children back due to his alleged direct involvement with Donald Trump and various task forces, which are make-believe and do not exist. Which is true. It's 100% imaginary. None, zero, zip, none of these groups that supposedly come from Donald Trump are real. I cannot say none of them enough. These guys aren't talking with the president. For the love of God, they're not. Which even, and you know, I do even have, and this goes back to show just how, I mean, these guys are literally, this is where I don't think the investigation will take a crazy amount of time for them to really start piecing everyone together, because they do literally say the same shit. Right here, David Straight.
On June the 20th, I was meeting Melania Trump in the Rose Garden. I'm on one of her task forces. And we talked for about 20 minutes.
On June the 20th, I was meeting Melania Trump in one of her, or in the Rose Gardens. I'm in one of her task forces. Ugh, I couldn't talk there for a minute. What happened there? This is David Straight. This is David Straight talking about President Trump and the First Lady Melania Trump and these task forces that he is on for them. Now, remind you, the task forces have been talked about by David Straight, Kirk Pendergrass, Timothy Holmseth, Chris Hallet, Francesca Amato, David Jose. All of them have claimed these Trump's task forces that don't exist. Which, again, that leads to a different level of problems as far as the government goes, because at this point, they're actually claiming the President of the United States is encouraging their foolish behavior. Not exactly the brightest idea. I really have no idea what any of these asshole idiots were thinking by doing that. But Timothy Holmseth, if you look into these different task force, you'll find, like I talked about earlier, that they are the source of information about these different task forces. Anything on the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, if you go back to the first anything on it, it's going to be from one of Timothy Holmseth's websites. They literally source themselves. They verify themselves. So the thing is somebody's like, well, that's not real. And then they're like, oh yeah, check this out. And they share a link. But the link fucking came from them. But a lot of people, because they just see a website, they think that it's good to go. That's trustworthy. Okay, we'll go with that. And then again, they'll take things that are partially real. Like, did you see that attorney in Colorado was arrested? And, you can actually show a link to that attorney that was arrested. And they're like, well, it turns out the real reason why that attorney was arrested was because he was trafficking 300 children, and I saved those children under the orders of President Trump, but they just got him in jail under smaller charges right now while we figure out what we're actually going to do with them. And somehow people believe that shit. But the thing is that's just mixing that real and fake. They throw out that one piece of evidence that actually does exist, and then on top of that, they just throw whatever bullshit they want in, which is basically how sovereign law works. You quote a law that is real and does exist, and then you just throw whatever horse shit you want on top of it. This video is a clip of a longer clip. We are not going to watch the longer clip by any means, because it is 2 hours and 44 minutes. But so that video where David's talking about his involvement with Melania Trump, the video on YouTube is titled David Straight Arkansas Class 1 of 3 Volume Fixed. So there's actually 3 of these. But so this video is actually... What is going on there? Why is it off to the... I gotta fix that at some point. This is actually one of his little speaking engagements that he does. So let me see here. And again, he flies around the country doing these different speaking engagements. Sorry for the background there if anybody's getting dizzy or anything. I'm just trying to figure something out real quick. Oh, I get, okay, never mind. It's because this version of the video is shitty. This version of the video, the person's like recording it. I thought it was off, so never mind. My own bullshit, back end stuff. But yeah, so David Straight, what he does, and the going rate that I've heard is that roughly $2,500 for him to come do this nonsense where you live and supposedly get children home. Not really sure how. But this is a short clip of that. Again, the full video is David Straight, Arkansas class, volume fixed. See, and no, it is a little bit off. Guys, see that white bar on the side of the video? Man, okay. We're just gonna have to touch that up just a little. And sorry guys. But again, this is our first time doing the multi-streaming. So let me just make sure that I got the whole picture for you guys. This is for you guys, for your entertainment and educational purposes. I want to make sure that you can see every inch of these terrible human beings. Let's see, that's YouTube. Okay, that's the other one I need to fix. Actually, no, we'll fix that one later. We'll just go with this one for now. I can fix that other one off air. Okay. So yeah, right now it sounds like the going rate for doing this is $2,500. I would imagine he probably charges more or less. I would imagine flights probably included, travel costs in general, hotel, all that good stuff. And he just does these public speakings where he rattles on about nonsense. I mean, literally nonsense. He goes up there and talks about him and Melania Trump hanging out, for fuck's sake. But we're gonna watch the shorter clip of this because it just, you just have to watch it.
And it was real nice and talked about a lot of different things. She gave me a little letter thanking me for the evidence that I've turned into the Pentagon has resulted in the arrest of more than 3,000 child and sex traffickers this year since March.
Okay, so David Straight just claimed that he was responsible for more than 3,000 pedophiles being arrested. And remember that, because here in just a minute, that'll come up again. But with someone else.
But President Trump came by, and I'll wear my hat tomorrow that he gave me.
President Trump just stopped by.
Said some nice things and gave me a hat. And I'm thinking to myself, what can I tell this man? Because I'm not going to get much time with him. You know, you're only going to get a little bit. What can I tell this man that's going to make some kind of a difference? And the only thought that came to my head was this. I said, President Trump, our 2018 census said there's 327.2 million people in the United States today. And the corporate charter that set up this corporate government, the Constitution, says there's supposed to be one representative in Congress for every 30,000 people. I said, that means we need 10,907 congressmen. And we have 435. And Congress operates off the Masons meeting manual as their book on how to conduct their meetings. 435 out of 10,907 is not a quorum. I said, they're dead. Their sin died.
Of course he did.
I said, no law that they passed, no executive order, no nothing that Congress does or the Senate does or any law that's written or approved means anything because there's no quorum. There's no lawful government. Everything is de facto, which means without fact. It's all de facto. They operate through the consent of the governed. And he looks at me and he says, you know, I know that, and you're right. And he says, that's why I signed
damn
executive
it.
order, and I can never remember the numbers, blah, blah, blah. Restoring the Republic.
See, there we go right there. He said executive order, but of course the executive order that Trump has put into play that just happens to be fashioned off the exact same views David Straight's stupid ass shares, he just can't remember the numbers to that executive order, which it seems like if that was matching your ideals whatsoever, that might be an important executive order to remember, one would think. It's kind of weird where his message is going with that, though. It's hard to tell if he's actually giving himself credit that he was actually part of Trump putting that executive order, or if like him and Trump are just like soulmates and they were just able to I don't know, communicate through their hearts to know that this is what needed to be passed. It's hard to tell what the hell he means.
Republic of the United States of America, and now it's up to you. And I just about burst into tears. I said, geez, he knows our government has no authority to even exist except through the consent of the governed by the unknowing and uneducated, and believe me, I'm not blaming anybody, it's not your fault. We were all educated through the same system. And we're all just compartmentalized legal idiots, and we're stupid. And that includes me. The smarter I think I
I'm
am,
going to agree
the
with him
dumber I
on
know
his
I am.
view of him.
Okay? And I'm the first to admit that. But
Those 3,000 arrests, were any of them elected officials?
yeah, a lot of them. A lot of them. Evidence I turned in is the reason Epstein went to jail.
Do you think he's dead?
Now that is a claim that what's her shit, Michelle Walker or Michaela Walker, because I'm confused too. I saw Randy Davis trying to say her name the other night, and I get confused on that one too. I don't know if she's Michelle Walker or Michaela Walker. But yeah, David Straight and Walker both claim that they have evidence, or they had evidence that got Jeffrey Epstein arrested, which, again, isn't true. I mean, of course they didn't. Like, not at all. Now, but also, David Straight just said that out of the 3,000 people he got arrested for this Trump task force thing, is that a lot of them, he had a lot of elected officials. I don't know if you guys heard that, but the question that was asked just now, somebody asked if any of the people from those 3,000 were elected officials, and that's what David Straight was saying. Oh yeah, a lot of them. So where was that? Like, did all of these elected officials get arrested because of David Straight's pedophilia evidence against them, and the mainstream media just turned their eye? I think we're in pretty much full agreement here, no matter what side of the spectrum on, and no matter how much trust you have in mainstream media or not, the fact of the matter is they're going to fillet any politician. Like, I mean, one of the stations is going to fucking roast any politician for any arrest, let alone a pedophile related charge. So it's really weird how 3,000 of people were arrested with a whole bunch of elected officials, but at the same time, just no evidence of it exists anywhere.
he is absolutely dead.
So we lost our most important witness?
No, we have all of his evidence. He doesn't matter.
He doesn't matter?
We would have killed him anyway. You have no idea how many people that we go in their house in the middle of the night and we pick them up and we take them to the nearest military base and we put them on C-136s and they fly directly to Guantanamo Bay. And they're tried under the UCMJ, which is much tougher than the Department of Justice. There's 4 of us on this task force that collect this evidence in the United States. And we've arrested over 3,000 people since March. In that same period of time, the Department of Justice, which has 400,000 people,
I hate them.
100,000 to 1, has arrested 1,700.
I hate all of them.
Okay? The difference is the authority in which they arrest. If the Department of Justice arrests them, they have to go through a court system, a trial, and they pick a judge who's probably a pedophile. And they pick a prosecutor who's probably a pedophile. And those black robes, there's a reason they're not white robes. Okay? It's good versus evil. There's a real reason they're not white. Our biggest criminals sit on the bench.
God. It's just painful at times, man. And you know, that's the kind of stuff, when I said earlier, like, it's hard not to laugh at some of this stuff. That's because it's hard not to fucking laugh at some of this stuff. My God. And you know, and this is another shitty thing too when it comes to following them. In order for their followers, and you got to remember, some of these followers, they have given money. They've given something even more than money. They've given them the ability to control their hope of getting their children home. If they now stop following them and come out and say that they are actually asshole scam artists, then that means they were stupid. And they have to admit publicly that they were stupid for following these stupid people. And that is really hard for people to do, which is understandable. Nobody wants to feel like an idiot. And you really don't want to feel like you got taken advantage of this by a group of idiots. So unfortunately, there are a lot of people that will just light themselves on fire and destroy themselves before they will just accept the fact that they were wrong. And they put their trust into the wrong people. And that's where people, you know, if any of their followers do stumble upon this, that's one thing. Like, you shouldn't feel stupid if you do break away from these people. It just is what it is. What's stupid is to keep on going down this path and listening to these people if you know. Like it, and if you had your ideas before and all that, I mean, you know, it is what it is. But at this point, if you're just literally lighting yourself on fire and following these guys straight into hell, now you're getting to the point of being stupid. If you're denying hardcore evidence that these guys are lying about what they're saying, if you're not demanding hardcore evidence of proof of what these guys are saying, then yes, you're being stupid. So this is still... For a lot of people that are following these guys, you have a chance to not be stupid. And I encourage you to not be stupid. We like not stupid things here. Not stupid is better than stupid. We can do this together, people. Plaintiff assists CPS parent victims with setting up GoFundMe to crowdsource donations, and the victim is asked to give money to help pay for their own protection and legal defense. One thing I will say about Cynthia Abzug is that she did raise, I believe it was almost $10,000 through GoFundMe. And she had people being sent out, including Ryan Wilson, Sarah Dunklin's ex-boyfriend, to stay with her and her daughter for their protection. So this is pretty spot on with things that were already out there. Things that were already knowledge about this situation. That whole part about setting up the GoFundMe and the crowdsourcing and everything, that sounds pretty spot on with what happened with Cynthia Abzug. Plaintiff was installed as a board member on the Children's Crusade Board of Directors, and plaintiff was a primary coordinator of the Children's Crusade fraudulent schemes as delegated by Mr. McConnell. Cynthia Abzug was running from the FBI Fugitive Task Force, which was coordinated and organized by plaintiff. See attached here to is affidavit of arrest warrant of Cynthia Abzug, hereinafter Cindy, in the state of Colorado, wherein Cindy speaks openly about Ryan Wilson, whom at the time was plaintiff's boyfriend. Ryan Wilson's involvement with the attempted kidnapping of a minor child, and there is video corroborating how the crime was coordinated and organized by plaintiff. So right there you have Sarah Dunklin being accused as being part of the Cynthia thing, which that's true too. I believe even Cynthia has admitted that Sarah Dunklin was playing a major role in getting her around the country, money, everything like that. That because of the criminal investigation into plaintiff and organizations of which plaintiff is on board of, the defendant is fearful that the plaintiff will attempt to flee the country with the party's minor child in an attempt to escape criminal prosecution. Additionally, the defendant is fearful for the safety and care of the minor child should the minor child remain in plaintiff's care and custody due to plaintiff's involvement and activity in these conspiracy groups. For the reason above, the defendant prays that the court enter an ex parte order of custody, granting him emergency custody of the party's minor child until such time that this matter can come before the court for a hearing. Then there's the end of that, and then there are different things, which again, that can be found in the description. In the description of this video, you can find this full article that has all of this. So let me change your guys' view real quick. This article can be found in the description. It has everything that you're being shown tonight. So you can watch it on your own time. You can go back through things. It even has both David Straight videos in there. The short one where he's talking about Melania, and then the full 2.5 hour, whatever the shit it was, video. David Jose video we just did on Francesca Amato trying to shut down the Ulster County courts. It's so ridiculous to say most of this stuff. God, I'm telling, that's what makes this hard, is that it is hard not to laugh at some of this stuff. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, here's that video we did on Francesca Amato claiming she shut down the Ulster County courts. Like, fuck me, man. Oh, man, you know what? I kind of want to give a random little update real quick. Yeah, let's do a random update real quick. It's still right there on the sovereign topic. This is somebody that we've talked about a lot of times. And you know, I've kind of been a fan of this guy. I feel like he's one of the least harmful of the sovereigns. He's just kind of off in his own little bubble being a lunatic. Let me see if I can find this video. If any of you were wondering, I am talking about the federal postal judge himself, Mitch Smith. Mitch Smith is a perfect example of how this nonsense can go completely wrong, and you can end up in some serious legal problems. Mitch, as far as you can tell, it looks like Mitch was a normal guy. And then he lost his house, he lost his family, lost his life basically, and he just turned to this sovereign shit. And quantum alphabet or some shit like that. Mitch got pretty out there, but he keeps to himself. Yeah. Yeah, Randy, it's Mitch. That was a good guess. I figured somebody would get that it was Mitch. Mitch, though. Okay, so like I said, and he is a perfect sovereign tale just because of how everything started off. He does seem like one of the nicer. He seems less problematic, we could say. He seems a lot less problematic than a lot of these guys. He's all about unity, and he wants to teach his little quantum language stuff. And for the most part, he's pretty harmless. Kind of sticks to himself and like kind of goes around to all the different herds and everything. But it looks like he also believes, because I know some of you on here don't know who these people are. He's a federal postal judge. He appointed himself a federal postal judge to take care of his bankruptcy and get his house back. Again, just crazy stuff. But it looks like Mitch is facing up to 3 years in jail.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mitchell, Smith, period, in textile, first letter capital, all rest lowercase. So there's been a jury trial. Jury, J-U means outlaw and R-Y is contract. J-U means outlaw and R-Y means contract. J-U means outlaw and R-Y means contract. Jury means an outlaw contract. And you go up against people who don't have past a second grade reading and writing level or a fiction level of thinking. So it is impossible for them to make a clear, conscious decision. And when you have a judge telling them, intimidating them to, when they go home, not to look up any facts, don't research any codes, don't look up any words in the dictionary, it limits them to their dumbed down ability. So it is impossible for them to make a clear, conscious decision. I proved in the very beginning that none of them had passed a second grade reading and writing level. I asked all of them,
All right, let's get
can
to
you
the
tell me
charges, Mitch.
what part of speech the is? None of them could do it.
This video
I was
isn't very
told
long,
I
by
was
the way,
going to be
either.
giving
This video is pretty short.
a jury of my peers. I was lied to. I asked them, are all of you U.S. citizens? They all said yes. I am sovereign. I did not have a jury of sovereign people. It's impossible for you to be a U.S. citizen. The United States became a corporation in 1871. So it is impossible to be a U.S. citizen because you can't be a citizen of a corporation. That's like being a citizen of McDonald's. I was told there was going to be a 12-person jury. That didn't happen either. It was 2 petite juries of 7 and 5. They're on 2 different planes, so the continuance of evidence is broken. So,
Here we go.
what happened? Nobody came. I asked all of you to come. You missed the most dynamic prosecution that you could have ever imagined. So, what is your penalty for not coming? The district attorney convinced the jury that everything that I said about my daughter, I just made it up. No one was there to back me up. So I told them that they were going to let me help anyone that I found worthy. So I'm going to let you be socially conditioned. They found me guilty on all charges. You're thinking, well, Mitch, doesn't look like the parse syntax grammar works. Doesn't look like anything you do works. They're just trying to control your mind to get you to believe that. If you were there, you would have seen that I am the most dominant prosecutor that has ever walked this planet. Within about, 3 to 5 questions, I had the sheriff's deputy, Abraham Sanchez, confess to treason. on the witness stand. He told me, I asked him, because they wouldn't give me their oath of office, right? I don't need their oath of office anymore. I was pushed to such a level that I was able to get him to confess to a felony without his oath of office. The district attorney, I could tell the district attorney told him, he's going to go after your oath of office. Just play dumb. You can't play dumb with me. I'm on a reading and writing level of 29. I asked him, Mr. Sheriff's Deputy, do you have an oath of office? He says, I don't have an oath of office. I don't know what that is. Well, right there, that's treason. He just admitted that he doesn't have an oath of office with knowledge. So he never had the authority to wear that gun and that badge. I proved the only way that they could find me guilty is if they went against Highway Patrol and if they went against DMV rules. And he was forced to perjure himself multiple times, and I caught him. He looks stupid as hell. The judge just tells me, even though you think he's lying, just go ahead and believe him anyway. And they did. It's the most ridiculous thing. The jury trial is a trap, folks. Don't fall for it. It's a setup. Like I said, JU is outlaw, RY is contract. The jury is a no-law contract. They don't let in any facts.
Man, honestly, I should have just played that video earlier to explain the sovereign movement. So yeah, that's Mitch Smith there. That 100% sums up the sovereign movement. Again, that one's kind of a shame. Mitch, he's a good disaster story. He's like Arlena Willis. It really looks like he had a normal life. He was a normal guy. He was a good guy. He was a nice guy. He went through a divorce. His ex-wife took the house and shit. It just seems like something snapped. Me and him, like in comments and stuff, like if he even, I don't know if he's ever made it on this page. He comes over on Discuss's page. We don't get along too great in comments and whatnot, but that's just because I obviously think everything he's talking about is complete and utter nonsense, because it is. But yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's sad to see somebody go down that road and just believe this kind of horse shit enough that they're willing to go to jail over it. Yeah, so Mitch is facing 3 years in jail after representing himself in court with their, the quantum grammar, whatever the shit he said it was. But again, Mitch Smith, though, he's tied in with all of them. He's Francesca Amato, David Jose, Sandra RN, all these different groups that are all tied together in this shit. Mitch isn't on the bad side of this, though. I do want to make that clear. Mitch isn't like taking money from people. Mitch isn't trying to push any sort of affidavits. He does his like online educational, here, learn my weird, crazy letters stuff. But it's like it's not like the other guys. I do want to make that clear about Mitch. Mitch kind of keeps his destruction to himself. But he does also teach it, so I guess he is an asshole for that. But whatever. Now, one thing with this protective order is that it was granted. And this protection order, or not the protective order, the custody order. The custody order against Sarah Dunklin was granted. And it was granted on there being an investigation into Sarah Dunklin and all this crazy shit. This is going to be interesting to watch over the next few months. And again, just because like this whole video, we've been talking about all these different lunatics that all fit into this, and all are doing the same thing. And you know, this is an example of how it starts to trail off to these others. Like, this is David Jose, who David Jose is partnered up with Francesca Amato. Francesca Amato and David Jose get their stuff from David Straight, and then David Straight is tied directly into Timothy Holmseth and Field McConnell. So it's literally, and then there's Sarah Dunklin that's helping with these victim harvesting. At the same time, David Straight used to be a lot more active with Fran and David Jose, so they were kind of acting as victim harvesters. Holy shit! I literally just realized that. Damn it! Okay, so I'm not going to say for sure, for obvious reasons. I'm not going to say for sure, but now, like literally right at this moment, I'm thinking, okay, so I mean, if you think about it, it does seem a lot like Francesca Amato and David Jose were acting as Sarah Dunklin was acting for Field McConnell, because they were pushing David Straight stuff, sharing his videos, especially this one video. David Jose still shares this one video, try and get the views up, which is something that they'll commonly do. It's basically padding your views. You just take one video and you just keep on sharing it over and over and over, and you just build views over time. People don't realize that it took, 2 years of you sharing the video over and over. They'll just see that there's a decent amount of views there, and so they'll go off that. Oh, well, a bunch of people have watched this, so it must be true. So, it's, but that's, man, I didn't even think about it like that. Because, like, there's definitely a hierarchy. Like, Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, David Straight, those, and then there's another one, Field's buddy, which whatever, we'll get into them later. But those are like the founding fathers of this shit. But then you do have these other smaller players, these Sarah Dunklins, these Francesca Amatos, these David Jose's, these people that are going out and they're actually finding these victims. They're definitely, like, you can definitely tell that there's a connection between all of them. Hold on, guys. We'll call her back. Oh, David Amos, I just saw you in the comments. I remember you. David was emailing me. He tried to do like a dox on me, which he didn't do a very good one. It was a pretty smart mouth response, because actually David emailed me with a bunch of past addresses I had lived at. And then he called a former business partner from the Daily Haze, someone that I'm not even involved with now or has anything to do with Discuss, so he wasted that gentleman's time. But he did email my email, and then when I did respond and I asked him what he wanted, and told him surely it wasn't just to show his Googling skills, because again, David Amos, you did not get anywhere near a current address on your attempted dox. And a lot, I can assure you, much better than you have tried to dox me, and there's really not much to dox, but yeah, I don't really understand who or what David Amos is. I did see that he was doing a bunch of stuff around Canada and shit, and that stuff, he started trying to contact me around the time that John Anderson lost his shit that last time. But overall, I just really I didn't look much into David. I wasn't too impressed with his doxing skills, so it didn't really seem like anything to really look into Melissa, the YouTube stream. If you... Let me think. Melissa... Here. Actually, yeah, the YouTube stream's a little... Let me see. I should probably, like, do a post, or in the description, I should probably put a link to both. I'm actually glad you just asked about that. What I'll do in the future. What I'll do in the future is we will put the links to the Facebook and the YouTube so you guys can bounce back and forth if you want. Because like anybody over on Facebook that was curious about that David Amos thing, yeah, that was over on YouTube. So I just commented the YouTube stream, so you should be able to go see it from there. You can click it. Yeah, the scribed, no thank you necessary on the documents. I try and do that as much as possible. Again, anytime with all this stuff, I know you're not just gonna, I don't want you to just listen to me. I like, even in the articles, and that goes with anything that I cover, anything over the years. That's one thing that I've learned is I like to put everything, especially legal stuff, out there for you guys to be able to see all that. A lot of people, when they write them and write about it or talk about it, they'll just give notes of it and kind of expect you. I don't like that. I like instead for you be able to see for yourself. I'm not shitting you. I'm not leaving stuff out of my notes, or in my notes. Everything is there. Oh, David Amos is a pretty odd guy. If you look up his shit, I see that some of you guys are talking in the chat there. Here we can. Oh, that's right. There's his address or his email. David Raymond Amos 333@gmail.com. And then there's a whole bunch of odd stuff. I think this had controversial political party greeted by vocal protesters in St. John. David Raymond Amos. He thinks everybody knows that the wacko Sally Coonleaf has to learn some new tricks before the RCMP pull out a Section 10 document on her and prosecute her under Section 300 SC pass, whatever. And there's just a whole bunch of nonsense like that. So I don't really understand what the hell David Amos is, honestly. I don't think, I don't know. It seems for the most part pretty harmless. Like I said, when he tried to dox me, the last address he had was one from it was literally like 10, 15 years ago was the most recent address he found. So that's also why I thought it was like a John Anderson thing, because he's talking about the RCMP and these different emails and shit. And just overall inability to do a proper dox. So I just figure it's one of John Anderson's kiddos. No shit. Pastor Dan got shut down for a week. Then good for him. Good for Daniel Lee. I'm proud of him. That could not have happened to a nicer guy. That's somebody that I need to pop back over to at some point. He blocked me on Facebook. He never did respond to me on Facebook. He just blocked me. Man, you know what? I just remembered this. Because I think we're getting close to being at the end of this. David is suing the Queen. I believe David's suing the Queen. Man, I did one on Daniel Lee. For the most part, like I started to do one. Daniel's another one of those ones that's hard to do. Because he has like 11 fucking years of videos or something like that. So it's hard to just jump right in there on Daniel. Just figuring out where to start with him is it was a little tricky, but I did put together an article on Daniel Lee and shit. So I know a pretty good amount on him. I know pretty good details on Daniel. Let's see though. I was gonna play a chunk of this video though, because this is David Jose, and this is David Jose. The video is actually titled "Is Field McConnell a Fraud?" ? Timothy Holmseth ? Is pedophile task force real? ? Objective review.
Hello. You are live with Dave Jose. Actually, we won't be live. Usually I'm live.
Yes, David Jose. Romero Watson is who works with Francesca Amato. These are the two that do the affidavits together. These are the two that are responsible for Arlena Willis. They play a major role. Basically, David Jose and Francesca Amato are David Straight's bitches. I'd always refer to them as like the holy trinity of scammers, with David Straight being the father, David Jose the son, and then Francesca being the Holy Spirit. So, yeah, that's who these three are, and that's where they relate directly back to Field and Timothy. In this one, they were kind of taking a weird approach, because I think at this point, the pedophile task force was kind of being questioned if it was real or not. And for a minute there, David was super all about the pedophile task force. But then he, I think he got kind of shaky with it, and he wasn't fully supportive, but at the same time was supportive. He never denounced or anything, and this video is all about him trying to twist shit into proving that the task force is real, which it obviously is not. But it's definitely, actually, Paige, I think, just said it best. David Straight is the handler for Francesca and David Jose, and again, like my little epiphany earlier, Fran and David are what Sarah Dunklin is to Field to David Straight. I do think that basically is how that goes. It makes a lot of sense, because while David Straight was flying around the country, Fran and David Jose were both pushing it on Facebook and finding the places for him to go. They were the more focal ones and sharing out his stuff. So they were the ones in the groups, and then God, it makes sense. It does make sense. Man. That's alright. That's alright. We may have missed that for a little bit, but I have a feeling that won't be missed for long.
We actually are going to be discussing some things today. Let me see what today's date is so I can make sure I get all this information in, right? It is, let's see, it's November 5th, Tuesday. We got report. Now, let me come out first and say that I do not personally know Field McConnell. I have never had a conversation with him. I have had Facebook messages with Timothy Holmseth. I've never had a phone conversation with him. So anything that I talk about where I verify information or I have a knowledge.
Which that actually makes sense. Because, again, David Jose and Francesca Amato, they were more with David Straight. So that's where these court documents, which I won't even fix that, but the Sarah Dunklin emergency order, it at one point refers to what was going on here. I said this earlier as a criminal enterprise. And it is. I mean, this is a criminal enterprise. You got David Straight pushing David Jose and Francesca Amato to find him people to get them funding, to get David Straight flying around the country, to have these people come to his little TED Talks. Meanwhile, you got Field McConnell putting Sarah Dunklin out there, finding those victims, raising them different fundings for them to use the money for God knows what the fuck they were doing, whatever illegal shit they were doing. Then meanwhile, you got Timothy Holmseth pushing that out there and pretending to be a patriot, and he needs funding from you so he can keep being a patriot. And my God, it is literally a criminal enterprise. Man. It's all right, though, because I will guarantee you, like everything going on social media and everything that's been going on YouTube, from Field McConnell to Kirk Pendergrass to Chris Hallet to Francesca, all of this has been seen or is going to be seen by different law enforcement officials. This is probably going to be a pretty serious investigation, especially as they start seeing all the different connections and how many people are actually involved, and then the different sizes, and then the fact that you're talking about all of them pushing anti-government messages. This just isn't going to go well. So, yeah, I don't even know that I want to watch that video, just because I cannot stand David Jose's voice. He's a fucking moron. Pardon my French. Yeah, Randy Q. Randy is one of the funders. People have been saying. So yeah, that's something. So now I think I'm going to end this live here. I think we did enough going through that Dunklin document and everything. I think the only thing that I will say before ending this is anybody, which I know some of you will see this, anybody affiliated with Sarah Dunklin, David Jose, David Straight, Francesca Amato, Kirk Pendergrass, Chris Hallet, now would be a very, very smart time to not be affiliated with those people anymore. It's up to you. All I can do is warn you guys. All I can do is put information out there. It's up to you if you listen. I can't say that I really feel bad for you if you don't. So in the description, there is a link to the article where you can watch this video if you did want to watch the David Jose video or any of the other ones. You want to look at the documents. Again, that link is in the description. There's also a link to support these streams. Anybody that makes a donation, you guys are awesome. You've helped this keep going over the years. This is what we are going on, like 6 years now, 6 or 7 years. That's crazy. So yeah, any supporters, it's awesome. Batteries, lights, all this shit to keep this going. It is what it is. Man, I just feel tired from that's just explaining all of them in like one run really takes it out of you. Yeah, Sandra Marie, I know Sandra Marie will probably get one sometime in the near future. which that's the other part too, is there's still other people that are being left out, like Sandra Marie or Sandra RN on Facebook, Michaela Walker, Tank. What is Tank's real name? Like Stephen Ruff. David Amos. Yeah, no, that's not begging for money. That's just basically supporting all of this shit that costs money to do for people like you to get entertainment. See, right there, that comment. I feel like David Amos is tied up with John Anderson. Which John Anderson, if you don't know him, he's a huge fucking crybaby. Maybe we could watch John Anderson cry real quick before I end this. Let's see. Let me see if I can find a good one. It's just rather weird that John Anderson popped up again from Canada, and then all of a sudden there was this David Amos related to Canada stuff. I don't really give a shit if the two are related or not. Watching John Anderson cry on I mean, that's just rewarding regardless. The one thing that sucks, like, as I'm looking this up, damn it, John Anderson is not very successful, and he has one of the most common names ever, so it's very difficult to find him. Let's see, where can we find John? I need him to be more successful. If you don't know John Anderson, all these crazies. John Anderson is this crazy ass failed actor from Canada who actually got arrested because of Francesca Amato and a group of other people, and threatening all these people, and just calling people pedophiles and shit. It's crazy. John Anderson is one of the crazier ones. I think he gets sentenced in Canada next month for his stupid shit. Let's see. Then, like, he wasn't supposed to be online at all, so he started going through, like, other pages that claimed that it wasn't him while it was him. The one crying on... See, I can't find the one of him crying on the building. I wish I could find the one of him crying on the building. I wish I could find the one where he was crying about Francesca having a larger audience than him. Like, there's this one video. I know it's in my messages. I can find it. I might have to do another John Anderson thing at some point in time. Because I have it in those my messages where he was on the phone and he literally physically cried and screamed because Francesca Amato had more followers than him. Oh man, you just you can't make this shit up. You just literally can't. Let's see, all videos. I'm on one of his Facebook pages. Yeah, I don't know. I might just have to do another John Anderson video at some part with some of the good ones. John Anderson. On Facebook, you can find him as John Anderson's Friends and like 86,000 other accounts. This is one of his pages. And then he like literally has just tons and tons of failed pages Like all of them have, like John Anderson's friends has 4.9 thousand followers, but I'm guessing he probably bought those followers because there's just no activity on the page at all. Oh, he got 12 there. Nothing. 2 people, 1 share. But it's really weird though, because if you look through all these different pages, like it's normally just him like liking his own stuff and sharing his own stuff from his own pages. So you got this one page that has like 4.9 thousand followers, which again, I'm pretty sure he paid for those, because like even this one, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have 5,000 people and you're literally the only person commenting to yourself. But then all these other pages that he has all have like 20 likes and 60 likes and shit. It's just so weird. So he just like has all of these shitty pages and then he just shares all the stuff through all of his different shitty pages. It's man, I wish I was making some of this shit up. Stolen Productions is another one of his, that's right. And then he's like got some Johnny Boombowski or some shit. I have no clue who this dude that's been on this page though is. But yeah, this guy's nuts. I mean, in reality, John Anderson is a pretty big piece of shit. I think, like I said, he has sentencing next March. Here we can get a little idea of who John is.
Now I'm gonna go tell everybody how good of a visit it was. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, so it doesn't get coded out, I guess. Yeah.
This might have actually been the day that, because he called me recently. This might have been the same day. And he's actually whining about it.
Provost. Not that I've been hazed, idiot. No.
Yeah, see?
My other co-host guy. He's commenting, but you can't bring him in on the live anymore. They took that away for some reason. So yeah, sorry I'm not online. I've been so busy that if you're trying to talk with me, you're probably not going to get a message to me. It's probably best that you try to send a message to my wife, because yeah, I'm actually really busy. I can't really be online.
His wife's just as crazy and shitty as him, but it's funny though. Let me see, because I looked into him when he called me out of the blue. Like every couple months he pops up and just loses his shit on me, and then he disappears again because he's a chicken shit. Like if you'll notice, I can't comment on anything. I just have the option to share. That's because he shuts down my comments every single time I say anything. So I mean, he's a chicken shit. He won't even let you comment back to him. I wonder, he was doing like these little retarded game review things. They were pretty bad. I don't really know what he was so busy with. But yeah, this is... Oh, the dark list. Yes. I'm on the dark list. So this is something John Anderson's done, is he's made this dark list where it's just basically people he doesn't like, and he just accuses them of pedophilia. Because... why not? Let's see. Mark Murrah. Stand up for Zoria. So like there's even pages and groups that he's deemed is just they're group of pedophiles, I guess. And how to avoid where to avoid their websites, groups, pages. I mean, this shit's crazy. Links to profiles, pages, and other groups these dark listed names are using and or connected are being added to help give you direct link to know what to block and profiles to block as well. Raquel, okay. Owner at Rocky Rock Shop. Openly supports fraud advocates with proven connections to convicted pedophiles. University followed by 529 people. Manages We Are One American National Concern. John Anderson's a fucking joke. Sorry, I'm just seeing the comments. Yeah, Field's going to Florida. That's happening. David Amos, you can cry about Field going, but he's going. And also, Paige, I saw your response to him, and the reality is he can't dox. I mean, like, I'm not kidding. I'll even check again, because the email he sent me, let's see, where's David? Okay. The last address that David Amos was able to find me was at 323 Rutan. So that was before I moved to Colorado in 2011. Probably around 2009 or so. So yeah. No, David can't dox. It was cute. It was a cute try. It was super cute. And David, you got my email. It's the Miko@discussglobal.com, so feel free to give it another shot, Tiger. But yeah, I don't know. I think David Amos has something to do with John Anderson. Maybe he has something to do with Field. There's not really any telling. I piss off a lot of scummy people, and none of them know what they're doing. Like I said, with the Fran thing, she's sent hackers after me before that have made these kind of bullshit threats. So, I don't know. I wouldn't really worry a whole lot about old David Amos. So that would be about everything, though. I think we'll do a John Anderson at some point in time. And I'm going to go ahead and end this live. And we'll do this again. From now on, we're going to start doing it just on YouTube and Facebook. Shit. You know what? All around. Okay, and so what I'll do is I promise in the future, I'll just put links to both in the description, the Facebook and the YouTube, so you guys can bounce back and forth and whatnot. Yeah. We're going to start moving over to some more serious stuff. I'll probably do the coronavirus, hop on that one of these next days. But this whole thing that's going on with all these guys, that's something that we're going to stick with even while doing more serious stuff, just because there's so much time that we've dedicated into following Francesca, David Jose, this whole group of scam artists. So, I mean, it is honestly nice to see that it's finally some legal action coming towards these people, especially the higher up ones that created all these fucking monsters. David Strait and Field McConnell and Sarah Dunklin. Well, Sarah, she's somewhat of a pawn, but she's still higher up than some. But Field McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, David Strait, these guys that really birthed all these different monsters. We'll definitely keep on watching this unfold. So we can only watch now, my friends. We can only watch the investigation. If you find someone that's getting ready to take their information, just try and warn them. Tell them not to. Hopefully this doesn't have to keep on going on that long so that people have to keep on warning them. But, we'll just have to see. So, you guys have a good night. And we'll see you